the hungry with good things, sends the rich away empty. He will always guard his servant Israel.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. A man came, sent by God. His name was John. He came as a witness to speak for the light, so that everyone might believe through him. He was not the light, only a witness to speak for the light. This is how John appeared as a witness. When the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" he not only declared, but he declared quite openly, "I am not the Christ." Well then, they asked, "Are you Elijah?" "I am not," he said. "Are you the prophet?" He answered, "No." So they said to him, "Who are you? We must take back an answer to those who sent us. What have you to say about yourself?" So John said, "I am, as Isaiah prophesied, a voice that cries in the wilderness, 'Make a straight way for the Lord.'" Now these men had been sent by the Pharisees, and they put this further question to him: "Why are you baptizing if you are not the Christ, and not Elijah, and not the prophet?" John replied, "I baptize with water, but there stands among you, unknown to you, the one who is coming after me, and I am not fit to undo his sandal strap." This happened at Bethany, on the far side of the Jordan, where John was baptizing. The Gospel of the Lord. So we have declared in our parishes in Erskine that today is Christmas Jumper Day. And it's just a way of expressing the joy that this day calls us to. And I'm looking out there and I'm seeing lots of really lovely Christmas jumpers. Well done. I see lots of folks with coats on. And I'm thinking to myself, is there jumpers under their coat? If I asked you to stand up and open your coat, would I see a jumper? Or would I see bah humbug? And of course you're sitting there saying, well, look at him, can't see anything under that. Well, I've got my Christmas jumper on, and it declares that I am Santa's favourite. Yesterday, members of the parish joined with the Salvation Army and all the churches in Erskine to celebrate the Christmas Tree Festival, or the Festival of Trees. And our entry was this. It's a Tunnock's tea cake Christmas tree. And we won first prize. And the people who put it together had great fun taking it down as they ate all the tea cakes. So what kind of person are you? Are you a glass half full kind of person, or a glass half empty kind of person? All of us have different personalities, and we see things differently. Are you an optimist or a pessimist? There's a priest called Father Henry Nouwen, who was a Dutch priest, and he was a great spiritual writer. And they put that question to him, are you an optimist? And he said, not naturally, but that is important. I live in hope, not optimism. There's a difference between optimism and hope. Nouwen says he lives in hope. There was another priest Father Teilhard de Chardin, who was a priest, but he was also a scientist. And he was really caught up in this notion of evolution. And he created some scientific theories about evolution. And his theory was basically that as human beings, we were on a journey that would ultimately end with our union with Christ. And Teilhard de Chardin was really optimistic. He saw everything as a positive step. Even if there were setbacks at times, everything was that movement towards a full union with Christ. And some of his opponents accused him of being naive. And one of them put this question to him. He said, "How can your theory stack up? Say, for example, we exploded nuclear bombs in the world. How can you be optimistic about that?" And Teilhard de Chardin said, "If we exploded nuclear bombs in the world, it would set back progress millions of years. But Christ has promised that he will be with us to the end of time. So that promise is what he believes in. He acknowledges that there would be a setback, but that would not stop, ultimately, the progress. Because that was Christ's promise to us. And his hope is in that promise. And he says that he can hope in that not because he wishes it, not because that's what he wants, but because Christ promised it. And in the resurrection, God has shown himself as capable of fulfilling those promises. So, hope is this. It's that vision of a life that guides itself by God's promise, irrespective of whether the situation looks optimistic or pessimistic at any given time. Hope is based on God's promise. You know, optimism and pessimism fluctuate. You know, if our hope was based on optimism or pessimism, then it would be up and down like a yo-yo. You know, all you have to do tonight is look at the evening news and ask yourself, am I an optimist or a pessimist? I think if we were being really honest with ourselves, we would have to say we're pessimistic. But we can look at the evening news and in the face of what we see, still be hopeful. Still be hopeful because the all-powerful, all-merciful God is still in charge. He's still Lord of all. And that's where our hope lies. You know, politicians, they're a funny lot. And they're a bit fickle. And one of the things that politicians do is check the direction of the wind. They put their finger in the air and they see which way is the wind of public opinion blowing. And then they vote on the basis of that. You know, and to enact change, changing the politician really won't enact change in our world. Because the next politician will do exactly the same thing. They'll put their finger in the air and see what direction of public opinion the wind is blowing, and they'll vote accordingly. So if we really want to enact change, it's not changing our politicians that will bring this about, but changing the direction of the wind. That's what we need to do, change the direction of the wind. What does that look like? Well, let me give you an example of apartheid in South Africa. You know, changing politicians, bombs and guns did not change the government's opinion of apartheid. They believed it was right. So when there were riots in the streets, where there were shootings, where there were bombings, that didn't change the government's heart. It just hardened its heart. But a group of Christians got together and they decided to pray and to do an act that would challenge the government. They asked everyone who believed that apartheid was an evil to put a candle in their window. A candle in their window. Now, I'm thinking that if I was the President of South Africa, I wouldn't be particularly bothered about that. But the government was so worried about this that they passed a law. It was illegal to put a candle in your window. Wow, a candle in your window was threatening a government. And they enforced it. You know, and the penalty for putting a candle in your window was the same penalty as you would get if you walked around the street with a gun. That's how seriously they took it. But the candles kept on appearing. And eventually, it eroded the moral foundation of the government. And they dismantled apartheid without a gun, without a fight, without a revolution. You know, the children of Soweto had a song that they used to sing. Our government is afraid of candles. That lighting a candle was an act of subversion, and it undermined apartheid. And it was done away with peacefully. A candle in a window. Amazing stuff. And as followers of Christ, that's what we need to do, to change the direction of the wind by giving an alternative to the way of the world. And you know, during Advent, we light candles. This is not a pious act. This is an act of subversion. It's an act of prophecy. Because what we say when we light these candles is that we believe that God is alive, that God is still in charge, and that because of that, we can say with Julian of Norwich, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, in spite of what we see in the evening news.